Sparkle salutations! My eye look is a little eccentric, and I know that, but that's because I got a request to do a tutorial for rainbow eyes. So I recorded that earlier today, and it should be uploaded. Hopefully it'll be the next video after this one? I don't know, we'll see how the editing goes. So, my video about the Ulta Black Widow collection has passed 700 views now, which is wild. And with that unexpectedly high view count came my first ever rude comment! Yay! Pretty sure that means I'm an official YouTuber now. So the comment pointed out that, well, I'll rephrase it. The video is pretty negative, and I know that. I was pretty much just ranting about how badly they did their collection. So I thought today's video would be a more positive spin on the same general idea, and I'll talk about collaborative collections and products that I think went really well. First up, the collection that Pure made for the My Little Pony movie that came out in 2017. There was a palette, 6 lip glosses, some brushes, and 3 highlighter sticks. Since I happen to really like the Friendship is Magic series, I have the palette and the glosses. Yes, I'm a brony, and no, it's not creepy. The show is just really genuinely fun and adorable, and you should give it a shot. Anyway, so the palette is pretty good. There are a couple shades that are hard to build up, and they definitely played it kind of safe with a couple of these colors. But each of the main 6 characters has a color named after both her and her element of harmony. So up here we have, kindness and Fluttershy, and there's generosity and rarity. So there's pairs for each of the main 6 characters. And the bottom row is characters from the movie, so, Tempest Shadow and Songbird Serenade. And, the colors match the characters fairly well, aside from, I don't really know why there's this kind of a shade up here for rarity, but whatever, it's fine. But the real star of this collection, I think, is the glosses, because they're beautiful and sparkly, and again, each of the main 6 ponies has a gloss named after her, and you can tell looking at the shades which one is which, but they didn't make the colors so, intense and intimidating that people wouldn't want to wear them. Because, like, this one, Twilight Sparkle, I mean, it's purple, but it's not, like, scary to wear purple, I would assume. I mean, my view of that is kind of skewed, I know. But I would imagine that even, like, somewhat timid makeup wearers would be okay with this, because it's not really dark, vibrant purple. It's just, like, a wash of purple with some, like, duochrome glitters, and I really think they did a good job with these. And the tops of the tubes have little holographic cutie marks all over them, and they smell really good. And they're just really pretty and fun. I really think they did a great job with these glosses. So this collection came out around the time that I was starting to see makeup as more of a hobby instead of just like a task to do. So this was my first ever limited edition stuff. Although the palette and the highlighter sticks are still available on Pure's website, so not that limited, I guess. I'm guessing that the way that worked out was there's not that many bronies that love or even wear makeup, and I would assume a lot of parents weren't willing to pay these kinds of prices for makeup for their young pony-loving children, and people that weren't fans of a show probably weren't that drawn to it, so I can kind of see how it didn't totally sell out really quickly. I think the glosses sold out pretty quickly because they're just objectively pretty, but the palette, unless you like the show, it's like, eh. So I'm guessing that if this collection had been made by an affordable brand like Wet n Wild or Elf, then it totally would have sold out and a lot of little kids would have been having a great time with this stuff. But it is what it is. I still like these things. A year after the My Little Pony collection, there was some Avengers Infinity War makeup available at Hot Topic. I know Hot Topic makeup doesn't have a great reputation, but hear me out here. So I bought the lip glosses and the palette and also this cool ring gauntlet thing. They also had bath bombs and a perfume, I think, which seemed a little weird, and I had no way of smelling them, so I didn't bother with those. So the lip glosses are pretty sheer, and the writing on the tube wears off super easily, so you can see on the Power Stone here, that's what it originally looked like, and then the Space Stone gloss, there's some wearing, and then on the Reality Stone gloss, there's nothing left. It's gone. So that's kind of a bummer. But since we're being positive here, I'm going to focus on the palette because I think the palette is honestly really cool. So on the inside here, there's a shade for each of the Infinity Stones, and they're color coordinated obviously, and they're metallic and foiled, and it's one of those like flaky kind of formulas, so I have to use my finger or else using these with a brush just leads to glittery fallout everywhere, which isn't usually what I'm going for. And then there's also more, normal safe shades around the edges, so that if you don't want to just go full on metallic colorful everywhere, you can use some of these shades to kind of tone things down a little bit, if that's more your speed. Clearly, I'm okay with just going nuts with the color, but you know. And I should mention that this damage to the palette up here is because there was an earthquake and this fell off of its little display shelf, and even though it was face down open on the floor, it was totally fine. So great job on making this quality palette. So I think this was just, the palette as a concept is really interesting, and I think they executed it really well too, because it manages to have, you know, colors that are clearly very appropriate for the movie, and then they also have the colors that make the palette seem less intimidating if this isn't, you know, something that you do all the time and if you don't do this kind of stuff on your face. So great job. I can't speak for how the perfume or the bath bombs were, but this is also really neat. This isn't makeup, but it was part of the collection and I really like it. Another 2018 hit was the Wet n Wild, definitely not Game of Thrones collection. They had a Fire and Ice Dragon collection, and I'm pretty sure they even used the phrase winter is coming at one point during their marketing, but somehow it didn't make HBO's lawyers mad at them, so sure. Not an official collaboration, but close enough. Everyone knew what they were doing. So Game of Thrones is a bit stabby and intense for me, but I do know the general plot because of reading summaries online and seeing everyone freaking out about how badly the last season was handled. I'm sorry, Game of Thrones fans, that yikes. So as far as the makeup goes, they had a bunch of items for the fire dragon side and for the ice dragon side, and I think they did a really good job of showing that contrast, and it was really interesting that they had, you know, bronzers for the fire side and highlighters for the ice side. It was just really neat. And I have the ice dragon highlighting brush, and the little dragon scales at the bottom are just really cool. I like it. So they had shadow quads and loose shadows and metallic liquid lipsticks for both sides, and then there was the bronzer and or I think there were like 3 bronzers and a brush, and then highlighters and a highlighting brush for, you know, the respective sides. And the products followed the theme really well, and they got about as close to the real names from the show as they could without, again, HBO's lawyers calling them up and telling them to stop it. So there's things like, you know, Winter Falls in LA, which I'm assuming is referencing Winterfell, the place, or even the just winter is coming quote that they used for their marketing. And there's Gilded Crown, which I'm guessing is a reference to when that guy asked for a crown of gold, and then the guy was like, oh, I'll give you a crown of gold, and he poured melted gold all over the dude's head. Yikes. And then there's Halo Walkers, which is probably the White Walker zombie things. There's also Queensland, which I would assume is supposed to be King's Landing, but, you know, not. And then the closest one, there was, I think one of the lip glosses was called Wild Blings, and there's, you know, the Wildling people. That's really close. I don't know much about copyright laws, but like, wow. So somehow, without having the official rights to use Game of Thrones, Wet n Wild did a much better job of choosing their names than Ulta did with their Black Widow collection that was officially licensed. Great job, Wet n Wild. When there was an official Game of Thrones makeup collection, Urban Decay made eyeshadow brushes that looked like swords. They took the swords of Jon Snow and Arya Stark and they made those into the handles for their brushes, and it was just such a cool concept. Makeup brands, if anyone is listening to this somehow, please more sword brushes, or sword lip glosses, or just swords, please, they're so cool. So I really wanted to get those brushes because they looked awesome, but they were $28 each, and I couldn't do it. But I did find the palette on a really good sale because I think a lot of people weren't really a big fan, but I like it. There's only 2 mattes, which was one of the top complaints about it, but I don't really like matte shadows. I like shimmers and metallics, and that's what most of these are. And the colors are beautiful, and I got it. So, I mean, a lot of people aren't huge fans of how the collection went as a whole, and I admit that some of the lip shades were a little weird, and I'm not sure why the White Walkers got a lipstick shade. That seems like kind of a weird choice. But I don't know, the brushes looked really cool, and the palette gets a thumbs up from me. In late 2019, ColourPop collaborated with YouTuber Sophia Nygaard to create a set of lipsticks based on ones she had already made herself by combining a whole bunch of other lipsticks. She walked into Sephora, bought one of each of the bullet lipsticks that was there, and cut them all up and melted them together and made just the Franken lipstick, which was a really interesting idea. So she's been doing videos of that kind of nature, mixing a whole bunch of stuff together for a couple of years now, and until that collaboration happened, there was no way for her fans to experience these colors that she ended up with unless they happened to win a giveaway of one of her Franken lipsticks. So not only are these lipsticks themselves just really good quality, but the entire idea of taking those colors that were already in existence, that she had tubes of, and making them into things that other people could buy and use is just really neat. So ColourPop's lipsticks usually have, well, you can't tell because it's so metallic, but there's little stars all over the tube, and there's also little stars imprinted all over the lipstick, which is adorable. But for Sophia's lipsticks, because she really likes bats and spooky things, there's bats all over her lipstick tube, and then also bats like all over the lipstick itself. So it's little details like that that just really make a collaboration feel more like it needed to happen, instead of just, oh, ColourPop had another influencer pick out a bunch of brown shades and put them together, woo. ColourPop does a lot of influencer collaborations, and they're usually not that unique or special or creative or anything, but this one felt like it completely made sense, and I'm glad I was able to get these lipsticks because they're really cool. The last thing I want to mention for this video is just the brand Besame as a whole. I never tried anything from the brand because they're a little pricey, but their packaging is lovely. They've done several Disney collaborations, and they had collections from Marvel's Agent Carter show and the Infinity War movie. The Infinity War glosses were the closest I've ever come to buying something from Besame, but I realized as I kept looking at them that I'd be paying $35 for a set of 6 identical clear lip glosses, essentially, because they did have colors to them based on the Infinity Stones, and you could shake it up and then the whole gloss tube would look like that color, but they were clear glosses, so they weren't gonna look that different, and I couldn't do it. The collaboration makeup that they come out with usually seems more like collector's pieces than products that you would want to buy if you weren't already a huge fan of whatever movie it is. But if you ever want to feel like a fancy Hollywood star while you're getting ready, or you want something beautiful to display in your vanity, and if they happen to do a collaboration with something that you really love, then, you know, it might be worth it for you. I know videos talking about new products tend to do a lot better than ones like this where nothing is new and hardly any of it is even still available, but it was still a lot of fun for me to look back at collaborations that I loved in the past, and I hope you had fun watching. Stay safe, stay home as much as you can, and please do not inject yourself with Lysol.